Do you know someone who has achievements and accomplishments that when you look at them, you're like, how do they accomplish all these different things? Well, great people tend to do some of the same concepts. And in this video, we're going to talk about how you can be great at anything. Hey, my name is Michael Thompson. And on this channel, we discuss personal and professional development from a Christian perspective. I'm a youth pastor and a student, and I'm just on here sharing lessons that I've learned that have made a big difference in my life. And make sure you stay tuned till the end, where we're going to talk about why you might not want to be great. People who are great at anything that they do have a certain perspective, they have a certain commitment, and they have a certain consistency. Now, their perspective, I'm going to divide this into three areas. The first area is on difficulty. People who are really good at what they do, they view difficult tasks as opportunities rather than just a roadblock in the way. There's a book called The Obstacle is the Way. A guy named Ryan Holiday wrote about this. And in general, in Stoicism, the guys will talk about how the difficult obstacles and difficult challenges are actually what make us develop. They're what make us really sharpen our minds. And an extreme example of this is a guy named David Goggins. Caution, if you read his books, he's got a lot of profanity in him. And if you watch anything about David Goggins, he's cussing the whole time. He's a guy who says carry the boats, and he is someone who is involved in special warfare. And he teaches the concept of callousing your mind. He says that when you do difficult things and you consistently show up every single day and push yourself and make yourself go through really hard circumstances, that kind of like a callus on your hand, that you callus your mind and you callus it towards doing difficult things. It's easier for you to do difficult things when whether you enjoy difficult things or you teach yourself to view those obstacles and those difficult things as an opportunity to grow and develop in whatever you're doing. And the Bible actually teaches this concept as well. James 1:3 says that we should count it all joy when we fall into different trials and different hard times, because we know that God is the one working patience and he's developing us, and so that we can be mature Christians like he wants us to be. So trials, anybody who's great at anything, they view trials as a good thing, and they view trials as this friction that you can apply your mind to and you can get better in the different areas of life. People who are great have the perspective on difficulty that it's a good thing and that allows them to develop. They also have a different perspective on habits. People that are really great at what they do, they manage their time well. That's one of the habits that they have, is that they analyze, how do I spend my time? Am I spending it efficiently or inefficiently? How can I get better? They also have a habit of not making excuses. You'll hear people say, "Oh, I just didn't have time," or "I just can't." Okay? Can't, it should be like a cuss word in your mind, because so often the word can't is used when you definitely could do it. You're just choosing not to. It's not that you can't eat healthy. You choose not to eat healthy. It's not that you can't go to the gym. You have all the time in the world to go to the gym. You just choose not to. So let's get this terminology right when we're talking about what you can and can't do. You can, you just make the choice. This is a big thing in counseling, because when someone shows up and they have a problem, a lot of times they say, "Oh, I just can't love him." It's like, no, you choose not to love him because you're not showing the actions that love shows. It's not that you can't, you're making the choice. So great people have the habit of not making excuses. They manage their time well, and they also go the extra mile. There's a guy named Craig Groeschel, he's a pastor of Life Church, and he says that great people make a habit of touching the line. And it's this idea that whenever we're playing sports, when I was playing basketball, we had to run suicides, and people who took shortcuts, they didn't always touch the line that they were running to. They would just get to the line and kind of reach over and hope that the coach didn't see him. I've played for coaches before that was a horrible idea, because then you're just going to run 20 more. But people who touch the line, people who they show back up after they fail, they make this habit of going the extra mile and not just doing what's required of them. Those people tend to be really great at what they do. And great people also have a certain perspective on patience. We live in a microwave society. We want everything to happen overnight, and we view people on social media who seem to have these great followings, and the way that technology is, people tend to think that success and things that are achieved can be done in a year or 3 months or 4 months. And it's like, in reality, people who are great at something usually spent like 10 years plus working on that craft. It didn't just happen overnight. And we, a lot of times in our society, just get this idea that, oh, I can, just work for 2 months and just be great at something. And it's just really not the case, because you get good at something by doing reps, not just having one perfect display of skill. Kind of like when you write a paper, if you want to be a good writer, you write over and over and over and over again, improving incrementally each time. You don't just spend 60 hours writing one project and that makes you a good writer. It's doing it over and over again. And when you work on a craft over and over and over again, you become very good. And a lot of times in our society, we want things now, we want it instantly, when all of society or all of history has been a case study on how it takes years and years to be really good at things. Great people have patience. They know that you're not just going to have an opportunity just one time, and they know that being really good at something takes time and it's not just going to happen overnight. Great people know that you don't just show up and do amazing at a task your first time. The way that you get good at something is by really failing and allowing that failure to move you forward. And when you fail, you don't just quit. And the only way you can actually fail is by quitting, okay? So when you fail, if you quit, then yeah, you actually failed. But instead of quitting, if whenever you fail, you show back up, you try it again, then it wasn't really a failure, you're actually moving forward. And this is just the reality of life, that you're not gonna be good at everything the first time you try it, but show back up. If maybe you're at work and you're like, man, I've just really not done well in this area and I'm ready to quit. Well, when you quit, that's when you actually fail. So instead of quitting, show back up, go back to the drawing board and get back after it. That's what great people do. They are patient in this area, and they know that they're not just gonna be good at stuff the first time. Great people also have a certain commitment. This is the second area. They have a commitment, and one of the ways that they commit is to learning. Leaders in fields tend to spend 90 minutes a day reading or educating themselves about their field. And the beauty about technology today is you don't even have to necessarily just read. Like, you can go on YouTube, you can use podcasts. There's so many different platforms and ways that you can learn, not just reading. Now, it is important to read, because I don't think that all the literature throughout history, all the writings are going to be available. I mean, I guess maybe they will be available digitally and you can listen to them, but there are going to be some things, if you live right now in this time period, that you're going to miss out on if you're not a reader, because not all of it's digitalized and audible or on video format. But if you commit to reading, you commit to learning. That's something that great people do. And they don't learn alone. They surround themselves with people who are going to push them, so that if you've ever tried to learn something on your own, you know that it's really, really difficult. And there's something about peer pressure and other people doing it with you that just pushes us forward. And God designed people to live in community. We're not supposed to live isolated. When you live isolated, it's kind of like a coal in a fire. And when the coal gets away from the fire, then it slowly cools off and it becomes not hot anymore. It's the same way whenever you try to do something on your own. If you can get 4 or 5 people to push you, it's kind of like a bunch of coals all together, and they're able to keep themselves hot and push each other. But when you get all on your own, it's much more difficult. So commit to learning, and don't try to do it by yourself. Great people also commit to action, and you'll hear productivity guys say that they have a bias towards action. They're not just going to get a good idea and think about it forever. They're going to do something about it. And if knowledge is all that was required to be great, then all the teachers and the academic people would be the only great people, but that's not the case. There are people who are really great at what they do, and they don't even have an education. Why? Because they have a bias towards action. They don't just do something and fail and say, okay, all right, whatever. I guess this is as good as I'm going to get. No, they don't do that. They say, you know what? Hey, I failed at this. I'm going to have a bias towards action. I'm not just going to sit on the sidelines. And I read something about finances. I'm not just going to think about it and think about how great this would be. I'm actually going to go do it. And I'm not just going to be someone who knows things, but someone who actually does things. And great people, they're not just smart and they're not just action oriented. Usually they're both. Okay. And smart doesn't mean necessarily just credentials and letters behind your name. It can mean that you're just a learner, right? And so there's a lot of different ways to learn. People that are great are also committed to excellence. The pastor that I work for will say that if you shoot at perfection, you're not going to get it, but you're always going to reach excellence. And in our society today, like I said, we have a microwave society where a lot of people want things now and they want them instantly. And we also live in a society where excellence is what people are going towards. You can see this with gas stations. I've noticed this recently, where the gas stations that are the busiest are all the ones that have the cleanest bathrooms and the best layout in the store. And they are the ones who have the best customer service, whatever, these different areas. So excellence is something that great people are committed to. And the last thing that great people are committed to is humility. Usually. I would say that if someone's not humble, they're not actually great. That's my personal opinion. But if you think that you know everything, remember, so the opposite of humility is pride. And if you think that you know everything, then logically, you don't have anything else to learn. But somebody who's humble and says, you know what, I don't have all the answers, they're always going to be able to learn more things, and they're always going to be open to other people's ideas. And if you're closed off to other people's ideas and you know everything, then I would argue you're not actually great. But there are people who are great in the sense of they're better than everybody else, and they're very prideful. But it's kind of like their pride makes them not ever want to lose. And it's like, okay, winning's a good thing, but not losing because you're prideful, it kind of gets kind of fuzzy when you start getting really detailed in that area. But great people are committed. They're committed to being humble. They're committed to humility, because they also know that they're going to be more objective, because when you're prideful, you think you're all that and you're better than everybody else or more skilled than everybody else. But if you're humble, then you say, okay, I'm looking at what other people are doing objectively, not biased towards myself, thinking that I'm better, and you're more open. And great people are committed to humility. The last area that great people are committed to is their consistency. One of the ways that they are consistent is in evaluation. Great people, they don't just settle for mediocre methods. They consistently try to improve themselves and spend their time better. They try to spend their resources better. They go back to the drawing board when they fail. Remember, we said when you fail, they show back up. And they also understand that success can become a liability, because when you succeed, you think, okay, I got it. But that can kind of be a curse, because then you don't try to keep improving. And great people will understand that you have to consistently, like I've heard it said that excellence or greatness is the consistent narrowing of your goal. So you try to achieve a certain thing, and then over time, if you're going to master a craft, you narrow and narrow and narrow the target that you're shooting at. And like if you were preaching a sermon, okay, you like the first time you preach a sermon, you just try to preach for the right amount of time and hope that people walk away with something that's helpful from the sermon. But then if you narrow that, you say, okay, I'm going to really try to make sure that my introduction grabs the attention of the audience, and that's your next goal. And then you keep narrowing it. You say, okay, well, I'm going to try to make sure that I have an intro that really grabs the attention of the audience. And then I want to transition in between the points well, have an illustration under every single point. Whatever it is, you can see how if you're going to become really good at preaching, you just consistently narrow the thing that you're shooting at. And it's the same way in life. And if you are very successful, you have to remember that what got you there, what you were trying to accomplish by narrowing that target, you have to keep doing that. You can't just you can't just do the same thing over and over and over again and be successful unless you are that same thing that you're doing is consistently improving and pushing yourself. Because if you're not going forward, you're going backward. And that's something that I've learned from my boss, and it's been super helpful in my life. Also, great people are consistent in their execution. They understand that feelings follow actions. And man, that is a big life perspective, because a lot of times people say, oh, I'm not motivated to read a book. It's like, well, yeah, okay, nobody was when they read their first book, usually. And usually people that are motivated to read are people that have it as a habit. So, yeah, okay, you're not motivated. But when you have that action, motivation follows later. When you have the action of loving your spouse, for example, the feelings follow later. It's not about how you feel, because if you live your life based on how you feel, you're not going to like the outcome. But if you live your life based on action and based on values, you are going to have the emotions that follow later, the feelings, the motivation that follow later. And I've actually experienced this recently with my YouTube channel. When I go extended periods without shooting a video, I'm not that motivated to work on the YouTube channel. But whenever I put the action in, the motivation follows later. Here I am, more motivated to work on the YouTube channel. It's just how we are as humans. When you know that's the pattern, great people know that's the pattern. And so they understand that. And whenever they're not motivated to do something, they say, you know what, the solution? Do something about what you're not motivated about. And when you live your life that way, you create more momentum, and you're going to create a pattern that you can continue to follow and get better and better. Great people understand that. The last thing that great people are consistent in is their relationships. They understand that the people that you surround yourself with are going to determine where you go. If you have a bunch of people that are passive in their life and they don't really have any goals or any ambitions, then it's going to be really hard for you to have goals and ambitions, because those people, they're influencing you. And whenever I'm teaching the middle school students in one of the Bible studies that I do, I say, you're the sum of your 5 closest people. That's not original with me. Somebody else taught it to me. But when you add up the qualities of the people around you, that's what you're going to be in the future. And you have to understand that's a law and a principle. That's not something that you're just going to break and you're going to be the exception to. Who you surround yourself with is going to determine where you're going to go, and it's going to determine who you're going to be. So choose wisely when it comes to who you put yourself around. Great people have a certain perspective on difficulty. They are committed and they are consistent, but you might not want to be great. So you say, Michael, why should I not be great? And I would say if it goes against the values that you set, because a lot of people will say, I want this job, I want to be great in this field, and it costs them their family. And I would say that that is not worth it to be great. If being great is going to cost you relationships, or it's going to cost you maybe resources that are not worth it, I would say it's not worth it. Don't be great. Be someone who's mediocre. And I believe that God designed us for a certain life, and that if you don't live that life according to the way that God has designed you to, then I don't care how great you are, you're not fulfilling your purpose. So you should not be great if it goes against your values. So make sure that when you have your values in life, whether it's trustworthiness or love or passion, whatever your values are, make sure that whatever you pursue in work or in your life aligns with those values, so that you don't set goals and have things you're trying to do that are contradictory to your values, making it pointless to be great. Hope this video was helpful. Great people, they're committed, they're consistent, and they view difficulty a certain way. Remember this: if you want to be great, do these same things, and you will be.